Woo! Let's do this, boys.
Damn.
Me and Kirk Cousins, baby.
Wow.
Let's do this. Let's do this.
I've seen some weird things in my life, but this one, like, it's top 5.
I'm buying you guys some Jordans after the show, so it's good.
Oh,
It's
man.
good. Man,
That's
it's Mike
great.
White season. He's got to embody something like this, right?
I don't think Mike White has that much hair on all of his body.
I am Mike White in a lot of these areas. So
You know what, man? That's what I love about you. Just
thank you. Appreciate that.
fly your own flag, right?
Exactly. I mean, I got enough hair on here to make a flag, probably. That Bare Naked Lady song. Like, remember that? Putting a shirt or something like that. Hair shirt. Long story. Welcome to That Helps No One FantasyCast. I am half naked Ryan, and with my buddies Ted and Steve, we make up a fantasy football show that is pretty good. It's pretty good. People tend to tune in occasionally. We're on YouTube. We're on Twitter. We're on Dean's Twitter. We're on our YouTube. Come bring some fantasy football chatter to the show today. We are live. We'll be on a podcast very shortly tomorrow. You don't have to see me and all my hair in its glory, which is probably for the best. So it's probably a good listening show actually this week. Boys, welcome to the show. I know you're trying to not look at the screen if at all possible.
It's like this car wreck. Like you want to turn away, but you just for some reason you just keep coming back to it, and it's just like, no, don't let him know I'm looking. Don't let him know.
It is a little bit hot down here in the cave, so just trying to air out,
Maybe you should.
Yeah, I'm jealous. Being tarps off, there's not many things that are better. So
I mean,
of all you're free, you're out there. Yeah.
Of all of us, you do have the best tarps off. I mean, you do it and you're like, all right, we get it. You're built very well. It's fine.
Well endowed.
Well endowed. Yes. Shoulders up. Anyway, welcome to the show. it could go so many ways, and we're just going to leave it as what it is. Busy week in the NFL. Lots more injuries. Colin Kaepernick is still not in the NFL. Jimmy Garoppolo is also taking a leave of absence because of injury. Russell Wilson continues to not be so great. Good for the Seahawks. Good for them. This is working out quite well. Trade of the century.
Top 3 pick as of right now. Or
Yeah.
It was either 3 or 4. I can't remember what it was, but
Like, it's wild.
good for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The Dallas Cowboys, they look like they're maybe for real this season. About as real as
don't they like kind of look like they're for real every season?
But a little more realer this year. I think they've got, like, with Pollard and Zeke seems to be showing up right now. CeeDee Lamb's looking pretty awesome. Dalton Schultz is coming into his own again. I don't know. The Cowboys look okay. I mean, their defense is ridiculous. Now, to be fair,
Yeah.
that was a game that they probably should have been winning, but that's how it
I think
goes.
a lot of people kind of forget that the Cowboys usually have, like, there's always like a couple, I guess, big glaring holes of some sort, but they roster a really good team all the time. Like last year, if you guys remember back to the playoffs, I thought they were going to keep advancing. It wasn't until Dak had his whatever it was, his third down run, and he ran up the middle and just took too long running, and they couldn't spike the ball in time. Mm-hmm. Or else they would have advanced for sure. And wow, Ryan, look, you're all over the map today. What are you?
You missed this last week. This was the last week. So this.
Yeah, I didn't watch the video.
You can get this on the Dean Blundell shop. This is the THNO all over sweater, and it is all over. It is all over.
It's all over.
It's all over. Just like our logo up top. It's all over. So you should get in on that, folks. Get in on that. It's awesome. It's comfy.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You look great. You look loud like me.
You need an ugly Christmas sweater for holiday parties here. What better one than one that just has big bold letters and stars all over it?
And the people ask you questions, and then you get it's basically word of mouth. Like, oh, you should listen to our football show.
A walking billboard, and it is super comfy. I will say that.
Just saying.
I'll have to break mine out at some point.
So there may be another one in the market. May have.
I still haven't received mine, so I'm not sure what that says about me. But maybe we're like the show's most third okayest person involved since I don't have one.
Wow, there's a story to it. Anyway, Tom Brady, is he done after this year? Tim Brady, is he done after this year as of like 6:30 last night? And then as of 8:30 last night, clearly he's not. That was a tale of two games, basically. Like
it's crazy that people are out there projecting.
But like that game looked awful. Like it was dead to rights. And then I'm back and forth between the hockey game and the football game. I come back, I'm like, wait. He threw 2 late touchdowns to win. That game was over. Like it wasn't even close. And then they come back and win.
Like we know Brady is the king of comebacks. Like he's so clutch. You can never count him out. There's 2 minutes and whatever seconds left. You know he's got at least one in him. The Bucks could be a dark sleeper, like the biggest dark horse team going into the playoffs because they have all of the tools to do it. Nobody really expects them to because, you're only as good as what your record says you are.
Yeah.
But I think they're a lot better. That defense is lights out if they get a little healthier on the back end and Brady starts, regaining that chemistry with Mike Evans, with Chris Godwin, get the running game going with Lenny and Rashad White. I could see that team going all the way, to be honest. Like everybody's going to pick the Eagles. Some will pick the Cowboys because they look like complete teams. We know that team pretty for the most part has not changed a whole lot, maybe offensive line a little bit. They could do it. They could be like the ultimate. If I'm placing money and I'm going to get like really good value, I'm breaking the bank on something like that because it's going to pay out really well.
Like Julio kind of shined right at the end there too. Like he had that big catch and you just start thinking, oh man, like what if he has, like that swan song where like you get a run and you're like, we only need like 8 catches from you for the rest of the year. Just make sure they're big ones.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, the Rashad White thing is coming along. They don't have like a guy like Lenny that was just like pounding the rock up the middle. Like they don't have that right now, but it only takes Brady so long before he like adapts to how that system's being run. Right. And don't think that he hasn't had an entire career of these third down back types that look like Rashad White that he hasn't just used to like max potential throughout the career. Right. So there's just so much there for him to draw on. Like it's not going right for him right now, but like he always seems to find a way. And like, what more dangerous of a team would you have to want to face in the playoffs than one that's getting hot by a Tom Brady led Buccaneers? So it's not just him that has Super Bowl experience. It's the large majority of that roster that understands how to march all the way through the playoffs. And wouldn't they just relish the idea of going in not as the favorites this time and going as an underdog? Like, I think they're happy to play that. I think even though Brady's been cream of the crop now forever, it seems like he built all that on being undervalued, right? So he's going to want to jump in and take advantage of that. And I just think like the Julio point is such a good point because, I mean, even back when he was winning Super Bowls with the Patriots and Chad Johnson shows up on that roster, like in the Super Bowl, they're game planning for Chad Johnson, even though he was nothing to them the whole season because they're thinking to themselves, like, here's a former explosive player. Brady's going to use him. This is the moment. It never happened, but then it left a bunch of other guys open. And they're kind of doing the same thing with Julio. And he's starting to become a bit more of a factor now, I feel like, because he's getting more coverage. He's still going to be that red zone threat. He's going to play the Gronk role when it gets down to the red zone because although he's lost a lot of stuff in there, he's still a big body and he's still got hands and he can still get open. At the end of the day, it's still Julio. So I'm with Steve on this. It's more unlikely that it happens, but if we're looking at odds and value in terms of a betting line, yeah, what else would you want to bet on? Like I would way rather, hang my hat on a Brady bet than anything else.
Here's the thing too, like when you feel like Tom Brady is falling apart and you're like, you know what? He must be done, right? Let's go back to last year's playoffs. The Bucks and the Rams, third quarter, Stafford has that like 1-yard touchdown run, puts it up 27-3, and everyone's like, oh, here's the demise. Like this like Brady, nobody can beat Father Time. And Brady's like, yeah, hold my beer for a second, and comes all the way back to 27-7. There was like less than a minute left. Stafford pulls off that like miraculous get him into field goal range and kicks it. But like, I mean, he did it against the Falcons, but we're still seeing it as of last night, right? Like
it was over. The game was over. I'm sorry, it was.
He orchestrated a comeback just when you think like, okay, maybe this is finally the time we will see like the true and ultimate demise of Tom Brady. The bigger the game is, the more chance he has of coming back. So I'm like, it's a rule in football from this generation and for the last 20 something years, never count out Tom Brady, because he'll make you look like a fool every time.
It's just so tough though, because you're watching it on the screen and you're watching reality happen. You're thinking, okay, it just kicks in your brain. There's no way this game, they're not winning, because you can't help it, because you're watching the game. You're thinking, I've seen the game tape up until this point. There's no way they're getting back into this game. And then, I mean, seriously, like I'm changing the channel. I come back and I look.
Sort of dark magic in his brain where like he can hear the collective voices when like he gets scored on for that last time, and everyone in their head, like you're saying, is like, oh, there's no way. And it funnels into his brain somehow, like some sort of witchcraft voodoo doctor. And he's like, yes, they all said it. That's like, it's like, I don't know, calling
like
Candyman 3 times in front of the mirror, right? Like he's
a warlock, basically.
I can perfectly explain this storyline and scenario and why I have so much experience with the whole Tom Brady thing. And that's because I'm a Cleveland Browns fan. As long as Brady is good, the Browns cannot be good. And so all of this struggling and success that the Browns have like alluded to or tried to gain over the years, like it's not a thing. As accustomed to I am as believing that, or knowing better that it's just not going to happen. I know better that you can't just count Brady out. Like, it sounds like a joke, but it literally is that, right? Like it's the same level of failure as it is that Brady's at in that level of success, right? And you can look at it the same way. So as long as there is a Tom Brady and he's having success in this league, the Browns will not.
I would like to see this like play out within the next like couple of years, and just, Brady actually retires. Like, folks, the Browns are on their way to the Super Bowl. Like it's going to be, it's one of those things, right? It's
I used to think it was the Patriots, right? But then he left the Pats and still had success, and the Browns still sucked, right? So it's obviously a Brady factor and not a Belichick factor, which kind of like makes me a little bit happy all in itself.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, in terms of when is Brady going to retire, like when Brady feels like it, like it doesn't matter how many bad seasons he has in a row. Like when he feels that he's done, he's done. It's not going to be the league putting him out, I don't think.
It's a good conversation. I had a couple questions, but I don't know how long these are going to take. Have we been wrong this year on anything? Like, has there been any things that we bought in and we were completely wrong on? Not me, because I'm wrong on about it.
Well, like I have the list here. Like we can scroll through it a little bit. Yeah. Not the list of who's wrong, but
I've been wrong a couple times, but
not like wrong on like a a guess or something. Like, has there been a thought process that we bought into that was completely wrong?
Yeah, there's a couple. So I thought like Sky Moore was going to be better than he was, and I thought that he was going to surpass McCole Hardman quicker than he is currently, because I still think he's obviously got a ton of talent. But it turns out that maybe Sky Moore is just the new McCole Hardman, and he's just going to slowly be groomed for that role.
Take him 2 or 3
where
years.
Hardman is now. Yeah. So I was wrong on Hardman. I thought that he was, or no, yeah, I was wrong on Hardman, but I was more incorrect on Moore. I thought Moore was going to be significantly better than he was.
Interesting.
Mine that I'll be wrong on looks like episode 10 that we did this season. I said start Chase Claypool, and I believe I talked about like him being with Justin Fields, being kind of like the true number one there. He'll have Darnell Mooney, Cole Kmet. They would have like a really good receiving core. Well, I was kind of on point with the fact that maybe they'd get it together, but Chase Claypool has done literally next to nothing in Chicago. So I don't know, that I was just scrolling through, and that seems to be
like there's a couple of funny ones in here. Like I think there was one week, Steve, where you and I picked Rondale Moore and Wan'Dale Robinson, and they both had terrible weeks the next week.
I don't think
but it's
guys.
Sorry, happen.
It probably doesn't happen.
Yeah,
Yeah, but like on the whole, I think it's been a pretty solid season in terms of storylines. Can't think of any readily off the top of our heads that
I
we
was
like
wrong on a
just
couple tight
botched.
ends. I was like back-to-back weeks. I had Mike Gesicki and Evan Ingram, and I think didn't I drop Ingram and told everybody to start him, and then within like 2 catches, he was out for the season. So
Oh
you know,
yeah.
I had a bad run, kind of. So that happens. It happens. You know, we're all Michael Pruitt. I think I've been watching like our group chat this year, and I think Michael Pruitt has come up like 3 times this year. So maybe he's like, as far as the show is concerned, like a THNO, but maybe he's good.
No.
Maybe. I mean,
It's just like
you're
he'd be just like the epitome of this year's THNO. Like we've been talking about that theme, like how many times showing up on THNO before it's like,
Are
okay,
you with
this guy's,
Thanos?
if you have a one of those flex positions and you keep getting 2 points and 4 points and 3 points and maybe you hit an 11 here but then back to 1 point or a donut or a bagel boy,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call them, wouldn't it have just been better to pick Michael Pruitt every single week and give those weeks or
play the odds.
he has 4 touchdowns in the season, like at least you got 6 points for each of those touchdowns. Like I often wonder about that, like stick with one guy.
Theory. Yeah.
The Pruitt.
the Pruitt.
Go to the Pruittary and just write it down.
Yeah.
Maybe the one storyline where I think the majority of us probably screwed up, and I think we just maybe bought into the hype. And I think without him here to defend himself, I think Chris might even be in this boat too. I thought the Seahawks were gonna suck bad. And I thought Geno Smith was just literally a placeholder that was going to be out in 3 or 4 games. So I definitely did not see any of that storyline coming. That's for sure.
I mean, and the flip side, to see the Broncos be that awful.
Oh yeah, I guess that's the other fact. You're right, Russ. Who thought Russ was going to be that terrible? Like, let's ride Bronco country. I saw that like little TikTok where it was like, let's ride Bronco country, and he's like doing the thing, and then in the next scene it shows like some car like driving off the ramp into this huge accident or whatever. Like, it's kind of way their season's been the last little bit.
It's just wow. Like we talk about this, I mean, on the show and obviously together and whatever, but like the fact that the Seahawks could be sitting on potentially, and it hasn't happened yet, but there's an opportunity for them to be potentially a 3rd overall pick.
Yeah.
Which is and then on top of the draft that they had last season, and the fact that they've got who they have now. So now you can double, like, it looks like if they can make a run of any kind, like it looks like Rashad Penny might even be back. Now you've got 2 guys that can run the rock in the playoffs. Like all of a sudden the Seahawks kind of are a little bit legit out of nowhere. Like everyone just kind of had them written off. Like, yeah, I mean, Chris was talking at the beginning. I'm just, you know what? I'm here to watch, and it is what it is. And now, like,
I need one of those seasons.
Like they're likely going to make the playoffs. Like there's not a lot saying that they shouldn't. So, I mean, that I think everybody was wrong.
The football world was wrong about that one. Like,
yeah, it's crazy.
People closest to the team, like Chris, who was like, yeah, you know what, we're gonna have, take our lumps. Season of no expectations was kind of like his model. Through Chris, I do follow quite a bit of Seahawks people on Twitter. Awesome fan group that I've gotten to get to know. I don't know. I'm not working right now. I don't have to English well.
We got
you. They all collectively are kind of just riding this big wave of like, hey, we're playing with house money. Like, even if the rest of the season from now on out, even though we're in a playoff position, even if the like rails fall off now, we didn't even expect to get this many wins where we're at. So the last 5 games or whatever we have left, let's play with house money still. It's
like they could lose 38-3 in like a wild card and be like, yeah, good run.
It's like, sweet, we made the playoffs and we get a top pick for us. Like,
yep.
Seems great for these young kids that we're grooming.
Now we're singing a lot of praise on this, but sometimes people need to yell. So we're debuting a new segment. I don't know how many times it's going to come out for the rest of the season, but we are debuting the newest segment on That Helps No One FantasyCast. I present to you the public Steve announcement. It's good. It's good. So we got to get off your chest, buddy.
Great graphics, great sound effects.
Mm.
So this is where I tell you things that just really rattle me. I've been known to kind of, I guess, go off the deep end with some things. So this week's segment for the Public Steve announcement is going to reveal a one Taysom Jonathan Hill.
That's seriously his middle name?
No, I made that part up, but
Okay.
it sounded good. I was like, what's going to sound good with that?
One Tree. You could Taysom One Tree Hill.
Taysom One Tree Hill.
I think his middle name was Taysom effing Hill back in like your week 3 post here.
We got receipts.
This guy bothers me to no end. And here's the thing that really bothers me about him is I don't own him, but I know like our buddy Kyle in our keeper league here owns him, and he's got to be just as annoyed starting him as I am playing against him. Like, so I play against him. He gets 11.34 points, poaches a touchdown from Alvin Kamara. You don't know what to expect.
Who's on your squad?
Right.
Yeah.
Who's on my squad? So like yesterday was double annoyed Steve running around. But for the last, like, I don't know, 7 or 8 weeks, he's posted like 9 fantasy points or less. Like, he's just so irrelevant. He's not a quarterback. He's not a tight end. He's not a running back, but he plays all of them. You can trust that twice a year he's going to go off. This year he went off for like a 36 burger against the Seahawks. And like, he's just so incredibly he's still ranked as the number 2 tight end in our, according to like standard leagues. You don't know what you're going to get with him through fantasy football, but also in real football, he just really pisses me off a lot too, because if you guys remember back to 2021, there was the report that came out that Taysom Hill just signed a 4-year, $140 million contract.
Oh, we remember.
What are you thinking at that point? So I looked it up. His career earnings in just 6 seasons. By the way, I didn't know that he played or had part of a year in Green Bay when I was looking this up.
No kidding.
It says he made $5,000 from Green Bay. So I don't know where that came in. I had no idea he was even affiliated.
Maybe he was selling burgers or something.
He won a raffle.
He was selling 36 burgers.
Yeah.
Cheesy. He's made almost $33 million in his career for essentially doing nothing in his career. Here's the fun part, though. I kind of had to end this one on a silver lining. If the Saints were to cut him today, he would have a dead cap of almost $29 million this year, $24 million next year, almost 10 the year after that, 6 the year after that, and about 2 the year after that. So
what?
As much as they've signed him in deferred contracts, and they thought they were super smart, and these, like, they call them like dead, what are they called? Void years, sorry.
Right.
They have to pay Taysom Hill until he's 36 years old, whether they keep him or whether they don't. And his cap charge for next year is going to be $14 million. You are not paying a utility guy $14 million, and it kind of just goes up from there. But his dead cap is too much, where it's going to cost them double to cut him. So they're either going to have to extend him again and just keep paying this guy. Like, we're talking Bobby Bonilla kind of numbers running around here, right? Like
Bobby Bonilla,
which is kind of, what is he, like 2035?
I'll look it up. You keep
Mr. July 1.
Oh man, it's so much fun to talk Bobby Bonilla. Anyways,
I love bringing up that story. It's great.
Terrible contract. Fantasy owners don't know what they're getting out of him. Playing against him, you never know when he's going to throw up that 40 burger, or guess what? Even just an 11 points from like literally useless player. And yeah, he's ranked number 2 in the tight end. Ted, how many more years are the Mets paying Bobby Bonilla?
So the payments that stem from Bobby Bonilla's $5 million salary back in 2000, the Mets released him later that January, and because ownership believed that it would make significant profit through their investments with Bonilla, with Bernie Madoff, they agreed to defer Bonilla's salary 8% interest and spread it across 25 years from the year 2011 to 2035.
It gets them. It's like, is it a perfect million or is it just over?
They owe him like 12 and a half more years of salary.
But like every July one is like, oh, there's that millie. Let's go for
man,
dinner.
I love July 1st. It's like, hey, everybody, happy Bobby Vanilla Day.
He gets Bobby Bonilla Day is July 1st, so 1.19 million every July 1st.
Every single time.
Yeah, through to 2035. So he's got another 15 million being paid out to him.
Okay. We all need to have a retirement fund like that.
Oh, he'll also be 72 years old.
Yeah, good for him.
Well, kids, back when I was playing baseball with the Mets,
Bobby B,
they gave me a contract I could not refuse.
Back in Y2K year.
Yeah. When people worried about VCRs, Grandpa, what's a VCR? Well, that's a whole other story.
Okay, guys, I got one more for you since this is
Rick DiPietro contract would be the other one.
For
That's
segment
true.
of it. I came across this one today. You guys know the fam and myself have been a little sick lately. We've been kind of catching that whatever the bug is that just rips through your house and stays there for a while. I absolutely despise thermometers because some of them are in Fahrenheit and some of them are in degrees. Now, here's a weird question for you guys. This is why it really bothers me. Why do we use Fahrenheit for certain things and why do we use degrees for other things? And do you use degrees or Fahrenheit when you're taking your temperature?
I'm a degrees guy for sure. Yeah. Fahrenheit only for the oven. That's it.
What about when you jump in a hot tub? Do you know what degree Celsius it is?
No, I'm a Fahrenheit guy there.
I'm a degree guy as well.
Like I use like, to be fair, I'm an Old Spice guy for my pit stick. I'm not a degree guy.
We don't. It's not just degrees in Fahrenheit. It's the whole like metric versus thing, right? Like when we watch baseball, we talk about how hard a pitcher throws. We're thinking about it in miles per hour, right? When we drive a car, we're thinking about it in kilometers.
That's true.
It's not just thermometers. It definitely is something that's like all over how we deal with numbers. Unless you're in Europe, right? Basically everywhere else. North America is really the only place that I feel like that happens.
Do you guys want some cigarettes and some would you like some Swedish berries and also the cigarettes in Europe?
What are you even talking about right now?
That's how they talk, pretty sure.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've been to Europe. I've never heard them talk like that.
Oh, that's everyone in Europe, I'm pretty sure. That's almost a guarantee. That was a Ninja Turtle.
So yeah, good beef. That's a beef for me too.
Yeah,
good public Steve announcement. I like that.
Love it. I think that was a success. Speaking of success, it's time to get into THNO stars, and I think we talk about the whole Tom Brady thing. This was actually relevant this week. Like Tim Brady, sorry, that glove, that gauntlet. I think there's something to it now. I think it actually is starting to make a lot more sense in the latter years of his career. He does hold all that power. Like he could snap, and the NFL just changes. It's interesting.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily argue with that.
Yeah, thank you. Sometimes I have good ideas. Steve, you're on a roll.
Yeah, man.
Who is someone that does not help you?
Okay, so I found the golden boy of this year. I do it every year, not to like toot my own horn, but like we basically made an award.
That's your humble for sure.
Yeah, this is like that's my one like humble brag. Well, you know who can really help no one is somebody that you can't even pick up and start because they aren't in a position group. Bellatrix was up to it again. Thursday night football. Old Bill B is just doing his usual tricks, and he puts this speedy little guy, slot receiver, a pitch and catch. It wasn't the classic bomb it out to somebody, but our good friend Marcus Jones. And you're thinking to yourself, wait a second, doesn't Marcus Jones play on the defense? You would be absolutely right. This is a shout out to my boy Nick. DBs have hands too. Every once in a while, they can catch it and run the other way for a score. This was an absolute beauty of a touchdown. Yeah. Do you have my clip here?
I do, and it was so tough to find that when you give me the wrong name for the guy to put in, and you put Marcus Williams, I'm searching for the wrong guy for like an hour. So once I realized it was Marcus Jones, instantly, yeah, because I changed it, no problem.
Oh, I sent you a link in there, bud.
Yeah. Anyway, you sent me the wrong name. No beefs. No.
I also Googled Marcus Williams trying to figure out who the fuck you were talking about too, but I just decided to look at the play highlights from the Pats game before I figured it out.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what we're here. We're all friends here. We're a good time. Let's roll the clip. Let's roll the clip.
2 fumbles tonight, 1 for each guy, and that's caught here. And Marcus Jones inside the 20. Marcus Jones down the sideline. Touchdown.
That was some of the weakest defense I've ever seen.
Fast.
Like, you know that meme, the GIF where there's the security guy and he's barely touching, he doesn't touch anyone. That was the Bills defense on that play. I'm like, what? Maybe they're just so shocked. They're like, no, that's the wrong guy.
He is shifty though. Like, you know, we always say like the reason why people become DBs is they're wide receivers without hands. Well, he makes like a classic like screen pass, kind of like the wide receiver screen, but he has to like get into that opening quickly and then make the cut back to the outside. And I think his speed is super underrated. I don't watch a lot of Pats games. If someone's watching and they're a Pats fan, I'm pretty sure he's like their punt or their kick returner as well. So I'm sure he's used to like kind of finding the lanes and, you know, that explosive juice going through. But yeah, a DB scoring a touchdown, that literally helps no one. You can't pick him up and start him unless you're in one of those weird leagues where you have like the defensive players, which is you're super stupid, just like people who have kickers and defenses alone. They're such an anomaly. But yeah, protect your fantasy team from DSTs.
Yeah, you want to make sure that you get some cream for that.
Because we have nothing else to base this on, and it's something that's universal in terms of ratings, I'm just going to look up his Madden speed rating here, and it's 93 with 95 acceleration and 92 agility. So
what is
we can all agree on a Madden speed rating.
What's his interception rating?
Never
his hands. He's got a 60 for carrying. So. And then pass catching, receiving rating. He's a 74 catch, so that's better than better than a lot of rookie wide receivers, honestly.
That's a B. If we were in school as you teach, that's a B. I mean, B's pretty good.
He's even got Ryan. He's even got a C spectacular catch rating.
No kidding.
No way.
That's above average.
A little fun fact for you. I you know, we were talking in the chats. I was like, when's the last time we've had like DBs, you know, used as wide receivers or offensive weapons? Because this wasn't just like, you know, he scored on a punt return or anything like that. He was actually used in an offensive formation for a reason.
Specific package, yeah. And
Deion Sanders in his career on offensive possessions only had almost 1,000 career yards and something like 3 or 4 touchdowns. So like,
that's stupid. That's
Coach
not even
Prime
fair.
Do it all, man. Coach Prime can do it. He almost had 1,000 yards as like a all pro Hall of Fame DB, and I'm pretty sure he was returning kicks as well, right? So I didn't know that about Deion, that he, you know, had played in that many offensive snaps. He had almost 1,000 yards. That's wild.
Speaking of Prime, did you see what Bomani Jones said about Prime today? I think it was today.
No.
That he like created the dream and then he left the dream. Like, do you think he's going to stay at Jackson State forever? No. Yeah. Do you not think that based on merit, based on what he's done, do you not think his goal would be to move up the ladder and maybe one day coach in the NFL? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how it goes. So when he goes and takes the job in Colorado, he didn't sell the dream. He just was really, really good. And everyone's like, holy smokes. Like, he's legit. It's not just him talking.
His message to the boys in Colorado, like that was
portal boys.
I love it. Like he just, not that I love that, you know, guys are gonna have to transfer portal or like he's, you know, basically telling them like hit the road, but we need more people in the world who are like, he's not saying it maliciously. You can hear it in him. He's just like, this is how I'm going to coach. I've got people that I'm bringing in, just so you know. And if you guys need to hit the portal, like, it's go do it. Because his message to Jackson State, his boys there, were don't hit the portal. He said, don't hit the portal because sometimes it's not always greener on the other side. And you're going to have to like compete with a bunch of guys who are also overloading the portal. So it's not like he said that for like ratings or anything like that.
No.
He's just literally saying, this is what I'm coming in. This is my vision. This is what I'm doing. You got to get on board, guys. Like, this is how I'm going to make a successful thing in Colorado. And I love it.
It's worked out pretty well for Deion Sanders, I must say. Overall.
On the two-way player thing, I kind of was like, thought it'd be fun to look the other way, maybe talk about some offensive players that played defensive snaps. Shocked to find out that Julian Edelman has 91 career defensive snaps, including 13.
Linebacker, wasn't he? He played linebacker.
Is that based on like special teams though?
So he's got 13 tackles, a quarterback hit, and a forced fumble with a fumble recovery return for a touchdown. So I don't know where they had him specifically. They probably had him playing like as a third corner, like a slot corner, nickel, or they had him like sitting in a safety or like an extra linebacker or something like that. But yeah, another heady player.
You got to remember too, though, like when there's a bunch of times like scattered throughout a guy's career where if you're an offensive player and the other team is like, I don't know, there's 4 seconds left and they're about 70 yards back and it's going to be a Hail Mary into the end zone, they'll call out like the hands team, right? Like, the hands team will come in and offensive players, the tall wide receivers. Edelman's just such a sure hand is probably why they had a lot of his defensive snaps, I would assume. Yeah. But if he had a quarterback hit, like he was probably playing linebacker or like coming in as like a safety blitz or something like that.
Yeah, crazy. The other guy would be obviously Devin Hester, right?
Oh, geez, well, there's a given there. I'm gonna go next here. So my THNO this week is reminiscent of a jersey behind you, Steve. Unfortunately, because of Mr. Jackson's exit from the game, we've got Mr. Tyler Huntley. You wouldn't have started him because, well, that wouldn't have made any sense unless you were Nostradamus and you're like, no. Don't start the $100 million man. You're gonna start his backup this week, folks. You're not going to because you're not an idiot. Tyler Huntley, greatest QB of all time? Maybe not.
Huntley takes it himself. A block and a touchdown. Kevin Zeitler opened the door. The guard. Huntley takes it through. And we are tied at 9.
He's a good-looking dude, too. Good-looking dude.
I don't know exactly what Huntley is to the Ravens if they were to need him for a very long period of time, but I will tell you that he sure is a fun fantasy football player. Okay, so he's not a fun fantasy football player. My bad.
He's done this before, though. Like he's had a good little run before.
Something about him putting up all these points and having like a minimum of 40 rush yards a game. To me, that makes him pretty fun.
Yeah, I like so when Lamar went out last year with his injury, and it was a season-ending injury essentially. He came in relief. I think he played. I'm trying to think off the top of my head, maybe like 7 or 8 games. I think he had one like kind of spectacular game that put him on the map. But if you look closely at his stats, like there's this whole thing going on with Ravens Twitter right now. Like, oh, let Lamar go. You spend all the money on players around him, and you just sign Tyler Huntley for cheap. He can do exactly what Lamar can, maybe not quite as much. They're out of their damn minds. He is a really good backup quarterback. He plays the exact same style as Lamar, which makes him that really good quarterback because they don't have to change anything, really in the system. They actually like kind of let him go a little wild, and people are pissed off that like, well, why didn't you just let Lamar, have that full control over the offense? They haven't let Lamar go hurry up offense this entire year pretty much. Tyler Huntley comes in and they're like, well, let's try it. And sure enough, like they're catching people. So
Does
I
this
don't-
show hope for Matt Flynn?
yeah. If
No?
I were to advise you on whether you should pick Tyler Huntley up for any sort of a run, we're getting into play. Most playoff weeks are 15, 16, 17 this year. We've got week 14 next week, I believe. I stopped count. Yeah, week 14 next week. If you wanted to stream him for next week, he's definitely, if you are needing Tyler Huntley to start you in the playoffs, you're probably hoping for a miracle is all I'm going to say. Just because I have to be realistic with
I
it.
should get this out, guys. I don't think I'm going to make the playoffs this year.
He's your perfect fun start then, Ryan.
No way. I got my
Because he's either gonna put up 15 points for you and 44 rush yards, or he's gonna put up like 35 points.
Not true. I got Jimmy's out. So Jimmy's
He
out.
hasn't had his 35-point game yet, so there's a good chance he still might have one.
So they
I
have
don't
the
think
Steelers this coming week, and he had the Steelers last year when this happened. Go look at some stats from the Steelers last year. They just play Baltimore way too well. I would caution you against starting him for week 14.
What if you had Jimmy G as your quarterback?
Well, then you need somebody.
I do. You need a breathing, able body.
Bad news is that Baltimore's already played Green Bay, so that monster
that's-
start game is not in the cards for him. But yeah, I don't know. Hey, who knows? I mean, cold weather games. I'm not sure what he can do.
I'll start him just to spite you and find out what happens. I mean, Colt McCoy isn't going to be having a good game, so do it. Remember when he was a Brown for that minute?
Come grow up with me.
Colt
McCoy.
14 doesn't actually matter because I can't get one of our top 2 buys, and I've solidified my playoff spot, so I don't really care if anyone starts him in week 14.
There's 6 buys this week. 6. The week before fantasy playoffs? Are you kidding me?
It's a badass bye week.
Oh.
However, if you had so right now I have Aaron Jones and Alvin Kamara on their buys. If I needed this week to solidify like a first round buy or something like that, I might be a little choked.
Yeah.
In retrospect, they get a full extra week of rest as a running back to come in week 15, fresh legs. I'm actually thinking it's not a bad way to roll into week 15 of the playoffs.
I'm going to drop Benny Snell for Tyler Huntley right now.
Do it.
0 fab bucks. I'm taking a risk, you guys. I'm really going all in.
Ryan is wanting to start Tyler Huntley. So June 2027 is going to be the year you should pick him up.
NFL MVP, you guys. It's coming. He's going to be the MVP for the Jacksonville Jaguars. You heard it here first.
Real question. Why do they let Huntley run the hurry up, but not Lamar?
That's a great question. I don't have an answer for you. I think it's idiotic. I think it plays into Lamar's strengths. Don't know. I feel like they just felt this overwhelming desperation last game. Like if we lose this game to the Denver Broncos, who cannot do anything to our defense, like we're gonna have to basically sell everybody off and start from scratch because this town is gonna eat us alive. So like we need to win this game right damn now. And there's like just this sense of urgency, like let it all go. We need to win this game at all costs. Like that touchdown was in the last 30 seconds of the game. Like
10-9.
10-9. It is hard watching them right now.
That's bad.
One of the worst games I've ever watched.
Ted,
Whoa.
because we're including you in the show as well. Who is your THNO this week?
For my THNO, I'm going to Pittsburgh for this one, and it's none other than Connor Hayward. Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna throw only one touchdown in a game, it might as well be to the tight end who's only had like 9 receptions all year. Yeah, one TD throw, 1 TD catch. Like seriously, not a whole lot going on there. The only like silver lining to this thing, and it didn't help anybody fantasy, but it's kind of a cool story, was the fact that he plays on the same team as his brother Cam Hayward, and their dad. Yeah, their dad played in Atlanta where the game was being held, and his father passed away there, and they went and visited his grave, and that was cool. And then he goes and scores his first TD. So this is just classic NFL stuff, right? Like nobody, like storylines don't come up in other leagues like they do in the NFL. And this is one of them. So feel good story. Happy for Connor Hayward. It is the Steelers. I don't say things like that very often. But at the end of the day,
it's your second favorite team.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, it's not like it helped anybody in fantasy football. So Connor Hayward's my THNO for the week.
Najee Harris, bottom of your screen. Pickett looking the other way, throwing end zone, wide open, caught! Touchdown! Connor Hayward! And boy, is that sweet! His first.
It's impressive.
That's a beauty time too. Yeah.
Almost missed that catch though too.
Wide open. Wow.
He had to pull that in. Like he had full arm extension on that. He just about missed that catch too. I'm glad he did it.
when you're 6'5" and you're considered an athletic specimen, because if you're in the NFL, I feel like you are. You shouldn't drop anything that's anywhere near you, I feel like. But
he just about missed that. And then it wouldn't have
that's
even
your job.
happened.
Like you should just catch it.
Yeah. Pat Fairmouth's like, come on. That's my job. That's what I do here.
Good for Connor Hayward.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, it's pretty good. K. Dotton I felt was a really good a couple of weeks ago. That was maybe as good of a story. It's fine.
What was the K. Dotton one again?
Well, didn't he lose his mom or something?
I can't remember. Yeah.
So yes, because you stole all my other guys. That was Kadero Hodge week. So it's fine. Let's get into sneaky starts with Taylor Lewan. He's having a busy time being not playing football. Have you guys been following along on Twitter?
I've seen a couple of his remarks. It's kind of fun.
He's an interesting cat, that's for sure.
He again says it like it is. Doesn't really care what you think, and it makes for some good content.
You know what? All the power to him. Steve, we're gonna let you roll. Who's your guy today? Who's your start?
Okay, my sneaky start. I actually picked someone that I was on the fence about last week, and our good friend Jim Coventry advised me to start him over the aforementioned earlier in this show, Jameson Williams. That's none other than Nico Collins. Nico, look at him. So if Jim tells you to start the guy, that should be enough. But if that's not enough, you got to look at the targets that this guy is getting when he's playing. He has a gravy playoff matchup. It's just like flashing green. The teams he's playing just love giving up points to wide receivers. He was only started in 14% of leagues. He's only owned in about 40% of the league. So maybe it's like a low-key sneaky ad as well for most of them. 4 weeks in a row, he has 10 targets, 7 targets, 9 targets, 10 targets. Ted's the target whore, kind of. He'll beat on that drum all day.
Did he already called you?
You can't catch the ball if you are not being targeted. So like last game, he only caught the ball 3 times. He got a touchdown. It kind of saved his week. But the only chance you have of actually scoring and putting up points is if the quarterback is looking your way. So they clearly trust him to catch the ball. He's still only 23 years old. He's a young kid. He's 6'4", 215. He's a red zone threat. But I think the value in Nico Collins is not like, one of those wide receiver spots. This is a flex guy for sure. He's got the Cowboys this week, but we're looking at playoff matchups. He's got Kansas City, Tennessee, and Jacksonville. This could be one of those really sneaky ads if you're one of the 60% of the people that don't have him. But starting him in one of those flex positions, this is a guy that could get you 10 plus each of those weeks. Even when Brandon Cooks is still on the field, I still think they look his way enough times because there's only the 2 of them now that Damian Pierce is apparently like a ghost in fantasy football. Like who would have known, right? So that's my sneaky start of the week.
Ted, sneaky start. Who you got?
Okay, so I'm going off the
for you. this week?
Sneaky. Hey, so sneaky is a funny one. So we've been through weeks where it's like, hey, there's not much out there to sneaky start a guy, and I would just be giving you bad advice if you just put the shit player in to start. And then there's other weeks where it's like, oh yeah, like obviously this isn't a sneaky start tight, except for he's only owned in like 20% of the leagues. Like Treylon Burks was like a pretty good example of that. So this week, this week I'm kind of going back to a bit where we're really going to try to pull a player out of the woodworks to put into your roster that you can try to get some productivity out of fantasy football this week. So obviously we've all struggled with tight ends. There's been crazy injuries this year. It's been tough to keep track of. But Chigo Okonkwo out of the Tennessee Titans, he's their number 2 tight end. I think that's a guy that you'd probably be looking at for, a quick start this league. He's not on anybody's rosters. I think he's only owned in like 0% of leagues. He's not being started anywhere. But it's not
there. He's
so you know what?
0%.
He's like the 2%. He's up to 2% this now since I last checked. So
he's absolute trash. You guys totally need to start him this week. That's good.
Yeah, but we just talked earlier about the fact that week 14 is this killer bye week, right? So if you're one of these guys who had a Goddard or a Waller or an Ertz, and those guys are all sitting on IR, and then you've gone to picking up guys like Cole Kmet or like Johnson. Juwan Johnson, who's like had some good games for New England, and now you're looking at these guys being on bye weeks. Like it's pretty slim pickings out there, right? So Okonkwo has been not bad these last couple of games. He's like had a quiet couple of weeks where it's sort of put together more targets, and like 17 targets over his last 5 games. As Steve said, I'm a target whore. I think production is a quantity over quality thing sometimes, and I think this is the case. Treylon Burks, we were talking about him earlier, concussion protocol. I think after what we saw happening to various players this year, I would be surprised if he got back in the game, and the ball has to go somewhere. So 6'3", 238 pounds. He's kind of a quick tight end. He's kind of the exact opposite of what Austin Hooper does for those guys right now. But the target share is on the rise, and so is the snap share, which is the other thing I looked up, up to 58% last week. So he doesn't have to be TD dependent for you to get, 4 to 7 points. So it's just really all you're looking for a bye week start in your tight ends. But that 4 to 7 points could really be the difference between you winning your week or losing your week. And I say go for Okonkwo. They have the Jacksonville Jaguars next week, and it's not a terrible matchup. So signs point to just going for this off the radar sneaky start this week.
If you're in a deeper league, like we're in our big one or my big one, I don't know how many you guys are in, but if you're in like a league that's, maybe 16 or 12 even, which is a lot of teams. Right now, or as of yesterday anyway, he's the 5th highest rated tight end of the league. Minimum 20% snaps. I've been looking, I saw something yesterday after the game, and like his stats are ridiculous. He's going to be their tight end number 1 next season in Tennessee. And the guy is putting up stats. He's got, where did I see something like his 30, like he's a guarantee, 30 plus yards each of the past 5 games, averages 10.4 yards after the catch. I'm going to tell you with 10 plus targets, like his route running, like 2.75 yards per route run. Like that's a phenomenal start. And again, he's not going to be blowing up a league, but at the same time, they're targeting him. He's in their offense, and maybe you only need 6 or 7 points. He's going to get yards, and the bonus would be a touchdown. So exactly. Your worst case scenario is probably 6. Your best case is 13, 14.
At this point, I feel like he's the mid-season version of Donovan Peoples-Jones, right? Where you're seeing him getting 5 to 7 targets a game. But it's true, right? 5 to 7 targets a game where you're seeing a receiver put up 60 to 70 yards and doesn't score, but you can take those 6 to 7 points. Well, the tight end version of that's going to be 4 to 7 points. You can handle those 4 to 7 points, and if he gets a score out of it, then that's just a huge bonus. You're looking at a guy who's going to pot 13 or 14 points for you, and what more could you ask for in a spot start?
That's true. I've got Jerick McKinnon this week. We all know who Jerick McKinnon is. He's been around the block. He's been there. Andy Reid gave him 8 chances.
A lot of milkshakes, that boy.
Andy Reid gave him 8 chances to run last week, and not only did he net around 50 yards, but in the past game he got the touchdown. He's torched Denver last year in Week 18. Denver sucks this year. Surprise, surprise. Expect a lot of the same this week from Jerick McKinnon. You don't really need a song and dance on this one. We all know Andy Reid and his running backs, and he'll run them into the ground, which seems to be happening. I mean, it's a decent start this week, especially against the Broncos. I mean, things are just falling apart with that team anyway. So, I mean, you might luck out for a 40-yard run and score and out of nowhere. So, I mean, you could probably take any of the Chiefs running backs this week and you'd be fine. So, especially after losing to the Bengals, they're going to want to beat up on a team this week. And unfortunately, that is the Denver Broncos, which nobody's going to be pissed off. Even Broncos fans, they're probably looking forward to it. So, Jerick McKinnon would be a great start this week. Ted, who is your ad?
Yeah, so again, I think this could have been a guy that could have been a sneaky start, but again, it's one of those weird numbers. So my guy is James Cook, Buffalo Bills, still owned in only 33% of these guys. So there's something going on there. I said in here that I would be willing to survive a bear attack to get a guy like Cook on my roster this late in the season. Snap share took a huge jump last week. The Bills and Allen have definitely looked more to these short passing attacks. I think he hasn't gone over 250 in his last 2 games. So they're obviously dishing it off. And this happened obviously all since the elbow injury. But he's looked really dangerous as a runner when he's got his chance, and even more so as a pass catcher. So this is a guy for sure that's projecting upwards. I know that there's the Singletary thing still there, and he's still going to be a vulture, especially when it comes to red zone stuff. But yeah, I think big chunks, you're still going to be able to use James Cook.
A literal bear attack. They'll be
survive a bear attack. It's like, yeah.
Oh, he's killing me. Would you start James Cook? I absolutely will continue to get mauled by this bear for fantasy football.
That's an actual bear claw.
Maybe a black bear, but not a grizzly bear.
You're killed a bear.
We're going to take 10 of these.
No way.
The teeth.
Such a realist.
Have you ever had a poop that hurts? Would you endure that for James Cook? I doubt it.
What a flex.
Yeah. We've been just I'm gonna go next because I'm cool and I get to run this thing. Even though I clearly was flaunting the flex to start the show as Kirk Cousins' doppelganger, I don't think you should be thinking about Kirk Cousins this week. You should be thinking about the next quarterback of the future, the man in the Big Apple, East Rutherford, New Jersey. You may know him as Mike effing White. I just know him as Mike White. He's the new cool. 2 games in a row, over 300 yards. He's attempted almost 60 passes. 60. That's a lot. So he's going to be busy to end the season. 22% owned, 10% started. Easy ad to end the season. If he's available, Mike White is the future. This guy is going to ink the stupidest contract. Taysom Hill's be like, I want to get that Mike White money. Adam this week.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know if I can argue with that for picking up a second quarterback in a playoff. Isn't it crazy that he's throwing the ball that much, like 50 plus a game? And Flacco, Flacco chucking 50 a game. Like,
it makes no sense.
What does that say about the incumbent starter, right? I mean, I don't think they let anybody other than those two through. I think they just let shit go to that offense. Why were they starting him for that long before they brought White in? How do you let Flacco throw so much? You bring in your starter and then you tell him he's not allowed to throw the ball. And when he does, he sucks. And then start him for all those games and then bring White in and say, you just unleash the hounds again. And
he's a missile launcher. He comes out there and is like, boys. And they're geeked up for this guy too. You guys all saw the pregame, right? I know they lost that game, but I mean, these guys you talk about a bear attack. They would survive a literal bear attack from Mike White. And they barely survived a literal bear attack this past week.
But why did they let Zach Wilson play for so long and not throw the ball?
Because the NFL's stupid.
If you don't trust him to throw the ball, then why are you letting him play for so? Why are you using up all those starts on him? Are you just hoping that he's going to develop, but you have 2 guys on your roster that you're totally cool with throwing the ball 50 times a game?
Dude, you've seen some quarterbacks in this league. There are some absolutely atrocious quarterbacks that have gotten starts before, even semi-legit quarterbacks. It's a messed up league. There are some guys that we'll never hear of again that have had starts in the NFL over yeah, exactly. I mean,
maybe Mike White for sure. Zach Wilson, no,
Johnny Manziel. We look at guys that have started in this league, and you have to laugh at some of the names, and yet there's the absolute unknowns. I mean, did we all think, we can dial back a quick bit, like, did we all think Russell Wilson was going to be the guy that he was? Like, they go and sign Matt Flynn. Was it 2 years, 16 million or whatever? He didn't even win the job the first year he was there. And then a couple years later, they've got a Super Bowl. Like, it's such a weird league. So anyway.
Now, I'm going to once again be the voice of reason on this show, because I feel like my two wonderfully handsome but somewhat stupid colleagues here are getting you excited about Mike White. Now,
whoa, I didn't say anything being excited about Mike White.
You're letting him go.
No. Oh yeah, you got to let him go for sure. You got to let him have his wins.
You don't. You have to put people in their place when they say some things. And if you are not part of the solution, you are part of the problem. People, I'm here to tell you, Mike White is an absolute farce. He is a statistical anomaly that gets us all excited.
What are you doing this Sunday?
Are you talking about Ryan when you say Mike White?
What are you?
Is this a statistical anomaly? Because I'm letting the guy have a day in the sun.
Is this a euphemism or something? Like, I actually mean the guy sitting to my screen above.
Mike White came in against the Bears. He threw 315 yards and 3 touchdowns, and Ryan went
bananas.
Giddy.
Because I told you to start him.
And just hold on. Let hear me out here. He also came in against the Minnesota Vikings, really good team right now. Through 369 nice yards. His passer rating in that game was 59.8. He threw 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. If you're like, oh, but he threw 300, almost 400 yards, but where have we seen that before? Last year, Mike White comes in, throws 202 yards against the Patriots, has a touchdown, 2 interceptions. People have no expectations. This is like the Seahawks season. You don't have expectations for them. They seem like the best thing ever. What does he do to follow that up? 405 yards, 3 touchdowns against the Bengals. Ryan is pounding on the table for Mike effing White. He then plays Indianapolis. He throws 7 completions for 95 yards and a touchdown. That's the Mike White you're about to get. He then goes, for some reason, they give him at Buffalo, 251 yards, no touchdowns, 4 picks. This is what is going to happen if you all start Mike White because you are trying to stream it. He is going to get you super giddy and excited, and he is going to throw the ball to the other damn team and lose you a championship. Now, I hope I'm wrong on this, Ryan.
You're going to be. I say lock it and dock it, and let's go with Mike White.
Like, I want to almost be wrong about this because I want this to be like, I want this to be your
this
thing.
Is my this is basically Mike White finishing this season is like the Millennium album by the Backstreet Boys. It's a masterpiece. And you're about to see this. You're about to see this season.
I want you to like save this receipt because I want you to be right about this. So
I don't think you have to save the receipt. It's on the internet now.
Yeah, because our show will be like, you're going to be so belligerent if you are right about this, and you have every right to be white about this, but you're not going to. So.
I'm gonna continue to let Ryan just have his day in the sun on this one. I love it. I'm here for it. I think it's a good time. But that still doesn't answer my question of why the Jets are letting him throw the ball 50 times a game and Flacco throw the ball 50 times a game.
They can throw
they can't run it.
Not Wilson. Okay, guys.
They can throw the ball.
Wilson, like what? Why would you draft a quarterback that you won't let throw the ball and then start him a ton of games? That's my question.
Combine hypes. Combine hype is a real damn thing. If you guys remember Zach Wilson's pro day, where he had like that run where he bootlegged out to his opposite side and kind of like bombed it for 80 yards right to a receiver who had no coverage on him, because that's what pro days are. The internet broke for this, being like, oh my gosh, Zach Wilson, like he's so good. Did you see that one throw he threw at his pro day when there's nobody? Like, come on, guys. It was a fantastic throw. You can't, I don't know.
Who's your ad, by the way? If you want to get back on the train here.
Oh, yeah.
Bring it back on the train there, Pat.
Here's one that Ryan can hang his hat on. My ad of the week.
Oh, I love this too.
I know you do.
I love this too.
None other than 23-year-old Cam Akers. And again, it seems like if I would have said this at the start of the year, you would have laughed and giggled at me, and you would have called me Ryan for, adding or starting Najee Harris. But we know he's fallen out of sorts with LA.
He has.
Even when he kind of came back, maybe the writing wasn't on the wall that they believed in Cam Akers. He wasn't going to take the share. Then for some reason they let go of Darrell Henderson,
Yeah,
and
that was
people
weird.
were like, okay, maybe Akers has a chance. So he's owned in just 55%. I think there's 55% of sleeper leagues, 45% of Yahoo leagues. Ryan does own him, so he's one of the few that we cannot get him in that league.
A few,
Smart league.
55. That's over half. Clearly, you're not a math teacher.
Still very available. Like, if you're going out dating, you got to find those available ones. I think with Stafford going down, this is best case scenario for fantasy football managers, because you don't want John Walford throwing the ball a gazillion times. Now you're going to have Baker Mayfield, same thing as John Walford throwing the ball. You are going to rely on your game. LA needs to figure out whether Cam Akers is going to be a legitimate part of this team and offense going forward. Run the brakes off of him, because you can't throw the ball. It's kind of like a twofer. You're not making the playoffs. You can't throw the ball with the crap you have there. Nope. And you need to know if this 23-year-old kid is going to be a piece going for you forward. So, like, his numbers weren't wow last week. He was very touchdown dependent. His yards per carry were somewhat low. I don't know if this is going to be a case where, the box is going to be super loaded against him and he's going to have that low yards per carry, but I think he's going to get enough touches, enough carries to make him a viable even start every single week, because he's going to be a RB1 on a team. Those are hard to find in this league. So even if you can only get 7 points out of an RB1 in your flex position, that's a win right now. If you can find this guy on the waiver wire, that is an absolute steal. It is worth you going and spending every fab dollar you have to go get Cam Akers. If you're in a keeper league, you might have just picked yourself up. Sustain a bear attack for Cam Akers, as Ted would like to.
Mm-hmm.
I got a bonus one for us. I'm
Just
on
wait.
the running train.
I know you. I'm going to let you do that in a second. But like we were talking about dating, right? So he's basically like an LA 4, but he's a Detroit 10. So sometimes even like local hot people, they get wins. So go ahead. Steve.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I mean, yeah, the Akers thing, I think this is like the perfect example of a guy who's going to get a ton of carries and will not blow the doors off of any game. But this is a quantity over quality thing for sure.
He will open the doors.
This is targets and snap shares, right? Like this is what you need this late on the season when you're picking up a guy that's only owned in 55% of
you guys are so right, and I love it. Thank you.
I got a bonus one because I think Akers was kind of like an obvious one for me. I think this guy could be possibly help you be a league winner in case of injury. We're always looking for that next Madison, Tony Pollard, whoever it is. Jordan Mason of the San Francisco 49ers is the direct backup to Christian McCaffrey. So while CMC is healthy, Jordan Mason is really not going to do a whole lot for you. He only played 18% of the snap share, but he got 8 carries out of there for 51 yards. So 6.38 yards per carry. 23-year-old kid, 5'11", 223. We know McCaffrey has injury issues. Like it's death taxes and CMC is going to get injured. Those are just 3 things you can put your hat on. Now that Jimmy G is done for the season, they really can't throw the ball. So Kyle Shanahan is going to get creative in the way he uses that backfield, whether it's, running back screens, whether it's going to be like zone runs, little, check down passes to these guys. Cause who knows who they're going to start. Cause they're actually, Super Bowl caliber roster anyways. So I just think this is a guy, if you have a space on your roster and something goes down with Christian McCaffrey, I hope not. I never hope for injury with players. This could be a guy that will get you 15 points a week if he is the lone ranger there. So I think it's worth a shot in the dark as a bonus one.
Speaking of McCaffrey is an LA 10, by the way.
Oh, handsome dude.
He's an LA 10. Hondi P.
Chiseled jaw.
Yeah. He's sometimes you just know. Sometimes you just know. Boys, what a show this week. This was a lot of fun. I feel that we got a lot of advice out there to the people, to the masses.
I knew it was going to be good when you turned the full Kirk Cousins. Like, bravo to you, Ryan.
I have no shame.
I'm gonna have a week this week, and you came out chest ablazing this time. Good for you.
Like, I have no shame, and I've told this to anyone that'll listen. Both my parents understand this as well. They're like, we know, unfortunately. So really, I mean, you got to show up for these kind of things. And yeah, I mean, we're a small show right now, but if that's the clip that goes viral 10 years from now when we're on NBC, this is gonna be a big deal. Which is also gonna probably, have my family running in horror. So any final words going into the final week before playoffs? Any words of advice that we haven't given? Steve, anything?
I think at this point, if you are a playoff team, your team is locked, it's loaded. Most likely free agent ads aren't going to help you, but injuries can always happen. So maybe start stockpiling those positions. Like we've been, pounding our fists against the table on the tight end train. It's such a crapshoot this year. Find a tight end. If you have an extra spot where you are like you have Jarvis Landry or something just kind of useless, do you want Jarvis Landry taking up a bench spot, or do you want to at least own another tight end where you can decide later? Maybe there's an injury, like last minute injury, or maybe like you hear Jim Coventry's his stardoms for Sunday, and your tight end is just kind of sitting there on your roster. Get them while you can. Don't waste your time on these Jarvis Landry type ads.
Don't waste your time on any Brown, really.
He's not a Brown anymore.
Well, I'm just saying.
I agree. Don't waste your time on a Brown.
Yeah.
That's not good fantasy advice.
Yeah.
Good life advice.
Any final words?
It's that time, right? So lock in your rosters. If you have dead weight sitting on your rosters, this obviously mirrors a little bit about what Steve is saying. If you have your tight end coming back and you have a tight end that you're using in the bye week the week before, throw it away and put your money on some sort of lottery ticket. Like, take a shot in the dark. Try to add a player who you think is going to get some snap shares. Pick up a guy that is a literal handcuff to somebody that's sitting in your league that could get the quality over quantity, or the quantity over quality thing. So if you have examine your roster, find that spot where there's a player that you can drop because it's garbage and it's not going to help you in the playoffs. Make the cut and go and find yourself a lottery ticket, whatever you think that lottery ticket is, because there's a billion different ways that you can do it. It could be a receiver. It could be
Mike White.
It could be it could be a handcuffed running back. It could be a Mike White.
Could be.
But now's the time to do it. So spend the last of your fab bucks if you need to do it on a player that's quality. Keep yourself a couple of bucks for the playoffs, and just go make it happen. Solidify those final spots on your roster.
Steve was begging me in the private chat, Ryan, I know the show is over. I know you got to hit end. Please just give me this one thing. And I said, Steve, I think our friendship has gone this far that I'm going to allow this. So, Steve, you have a bonus advice for people?
Yeah, I just thought of this one. I was thinking about this earlier, and this is something I struggle with, but I resist the temptation to tinker last minute by starting a guy who has a good fantasy matchup over like your alphas, your studs that have got you there the whole way. So like if you have a Mike Evans, I don't know, week 15, I think they play the Bengals. That's a tougher matchup for wide receivers. Don't go and start like a Nico Collins over a Mike Evans, because if you lose your playoffs with starting Justin Jefferson, I'm just looking at my roster, Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra, St. Brown, Mike Evans, I can live with the fact that I started a good roster and I just didn't make the right start because I didn't pick the worst player. Don't pick the worst player and then a Mike Evans is sitting on your bench and just blows up for 22 yards and you're like, what was I doing starting Matthew Stafford instead of Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs? It's just something that will always haunt, whether it was the right choice at the time. You always think about the ones where you didn't start your Christian McCaffrey because he had a bad, on paper fantasy football matchup. It's not how
Makes
football
sense.
works all the time.
No.
Start your best players no matter what.
No, I had.
And this counts for everything, right? Stafford at the time was the number 2 ranked quarterback in the league. That's just the way it goes.
I don't care if it's a snow game. You still start. Philly had it. Was 10 years ago. I think there was a big snow game. I think I had Deshaun Jackson or McCoy. I can't. One of the two. I think it was Deshaun Jackson. And I didn't need anything. I didn't need anything. Like I needed a normal fantasy day. And the snow game, everybody ran. I think there was like 3 passes in the whole game. You start them anyway because you have to live and die with the team that got you there. It doesn't matter, like circumstances. Yeah, there's going to be the odd one you're thinking, well, that seems ridiculous. Why would I start? Because you do. That's just how the game works.
You don't.
And this is coming from a guy that isn't making the playoffs, but I still know if I had good players, this is what would happen. If I had a good roster, this is actually very good advice. Unfortunately, I don't, and I have to rejig things for next year. But that's a whole other conversation. So, on behalf of Steve and Ted in the vacant spot for Chris, I'm Ryan. This is That Helps No One Fantasy Cast on the Dean Blundell Network. This has been a fun week. Good luck in your final week of the regular season. And I mean, if you do really need our help, your team probably sucks anyway.